Every Christmas, millions of people connect with the Grinch. And not just because he's funny, but because he's lonely.
I've got all the company I need right here. Hello!
But here's the surprise. The Bible's Christmas story has more in common with the Grinch than with our glossy Christmas cards. So if Christmas feels a bit hollow, a bit heavy, or like you're on the outside looking in, the true story of Jesus' birth will speak directly to you. So in this video, we'll see how the Grinch helps us understand the part of Christmas that most Christians never notice. So why does the Grinch resonate with us so strongly, especially at Christmas? Well, the Grinch isn't about anger, it's about isolation. His heart is 2 sizes too small, we're told, because he's been rejected by the Who's, the community that he lives amongst. And Christmas only intensifies his pain because the celebrations remind him that he's not part of them. And that's exactly the emotional landscape of the real Christmas story, not the soft-focused nativity that we've grown up with. So here are 3 truths about Christmas that the Grinch reminds us of. Firstly, the first Christmas is a story of rejection. So how is the Grinch relevant? Well, the Grinch's backstory is a sad story of rejection. At school, he's teased about his hairy face, and then in a pivotal moment, he tries to give the love of his life, Martha May, a homemade present.
Merry Christmas, Martha May.
Please take the bag off.
Look at that hack job. Stupid!
Well, that ridicule and rejection by his fellow Who's is the reason the Grinch hates Christmas. And you know, even though it's weird to make the parallel, Jesus steps into a similar story of rejection. So not finding room in Bethlehem isn't just a quirky detail, it shows Jesus' exclusion. The Gospel writer John highlights this. He says, "He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him." You see, Mary and Joseph are a desperate poor couple in need of kindness and care, but they're left out in the cold. And Jesus, being born in an animal outhouse without the normal family hospitality, makes this even more pointed. Even by first century standards, Jesus' birth was shockingly basic. It wasn't usual, even in those days, for human babies to be placed in dirty animal feeding troughs. So, just like the Grinch, from his very first day on earth, Jesus stepped into a world that had no room for him, and he experienced being unwanted too. And if you've ever felt like you just don't fit, even at Christmas, notice Jesus' story starts exactly where you are. Now, our first point shows the world's attitude to Jesus, but the next shows God's attitude towards us. And it's the lovely little Cindy Lou Who in the Grinch who helps explain this. You see, Cindy Lou doesn't let the Grinch fester in his cave. Even when he's in the process of trying to steal Christmas, she seeks him out in his grumpy loneliness.
Hi, Mr. Grinch. I came to see you. No one should be alone on Christmas.
And bizarre though this parallel is, in a small, imperfect way, she pictures what God does far more fully for us. You see, God comes to find us in our loneliness. Just as Cindy doesn't wait for the Grinch to become friendly and sociable, so God doesn't wait for us to be joyful and together before he meets us. The Bible tells us he comes into the darkness to find us. Those walking in darkness have seen a great light. God isn't just there for us when life is warm and welcoming with that cozy Christmas glow. No, the true Christmas story says he comes close when life is cold and fractured and lonely. And Matthew tells us this baby born has a very special name, Immanuel, God with us, which reminds us even when we feel lost, we can know that we will never really be alone again because God has come to step in alongside us. But loneliness isn't only the absence of people. It's the ache of wanting to be chosen. And that longing drives one of the most surprising twists in the Grinch's story. Cue Martha May Whovier. Now, we've seen her already. She's the prettiest girl in school, and the Grinch has loved her since he was a boy. As an adult, she gets engaged to the Grinch's childhood bully, the mayor of Whoville. But then, in the final scene of the film, something unexpected happens.
Your ring back. Sorry. But my heart belongs to someone else.
Against all the odds, Martha May chooses the Grinch, the mocked, overlooked outsider. And this is a pattern that Christmas confirms is God's way too. You see, God sets his love on the overlooked. Think about who are the first people to be told that God has been born on earth. Not kings, not priests, not the elite, but some shepherds sitting on a hillside. Now, at the time, shepherds were part of the lower working classes, poor, uneducated, often hired labourers. And their work meant that they were kept away from settled village life. Later rabbinic sources portrayed them as not trustworthy enough to give testimony in court, so they obviously weren't held in high esteem. But it's not a mistake that God chooses the shepherds to receive the most important royal birth announcement of all time. When the army of angels tells them the good news, this teaches us a key theological truth of Christmas, that God comes to the outsiders. And Scripture's already told us this, because in Luke 1, the teenage Mary has sung, "He has brought down the mighty and lifted up the lowly." So, just as Martha May chose the least likely candidate in the Grinch to be her love, we need to remember at Christmas that God doesn't choose us because we're lovely or important or have everything together. We don't need to be the picture-perfect family or couple in those annual Christmas cards. No, God sets his love on the overlooked, be that the shepherds or us. And that's not because we're impressive, but just because that's the kind of God he is. So where are we with all of this? Well, strangely, we've seen that the Grinch has a lot to teach us about the Bible's real meaning of Christmas. You know, the Grinch started with a heart 2 sizes too small. But after Cindy Lou's compassion and seeing the Whovilles' happy community, this is what happens.
That the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day.
His heart grew when he discovered kindness, not because he'd earned it, but because it was offered. And so the happy ending.
So he brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast.
In the end, the Grinch celebrates Christmas not because of gifts or the food or the decoration, but because he finally experiences welcome. Little Cindy Lou sees him, she calls him by name and she says, "You belong with us." And that's what the Grinch is really about. And the Christian claim is actually much stronger than that. God himself comes to the rejected, the lonely, the outsiders, and he says, "You belong with me." And that's a Christmas story you might have missed. Jesus is born into rejection. He knows what it is to be shut out. God comes to find us in our loneliness. Jesus becomes God with us. And God sets his love on the overlooked. He sees the ones that everyone else has missed. This is the real Christmas story. And maybe the most honest prayer you could pray this season is simply, "Lord, be with me." And the promise of Christmas is, he already is. Now, if you want to see what it actually cost God to be Immanuel, God with us, then the next video takes you right into that very first night with Mary and Joseph. Tap the video on the screen. It's a brilliant next step.